we fixed it.
Sarah's working very hard.
Now we're live again.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you. Well, guys, that was a little interruption. Well, we are what we try to be. We try as best as we can. So thank you very much for Sarah for fixing the troubles we had with the sound. Hopefully this was the first and last interruption for this interview. Peter, we ended where you were telling us that together with your brother, you had a kennel name. You bred together under the name Travel until his marriage broke up. And then at one stage, you came in contact with Mr. Jack Eltoft from the Goldwyn Kennels. Can you please tell us a bit about that?
Yes, he came to my home just out of the blue, and he asked me not to see me on the circuit for a while. And I said, we've had a litter of puppies, which was out of Star Prize.
Okay.
And he wanted to buy Star Prize off me. And of course, I wouldn't sell. And he asked if he could see the puppies. Well, I had two left, which one was Leading Star and Golden Lad, you see.
Yeah.
And when we went through the paperwork, it went directly back to his original stock.
Okay. Yes.
They were very interested. Mm-hmm. And he asked if I would put the Goldwyn up front. And I said, because he didn't have it as a proper affix, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because a lot of old timers used to use names and they wasn't registered.
Okay, okay. But Goldwyn originally came from racing pigeons.
Yes, from his father-in-law.
Okay, good.
It was the name of a racing pigeon.
Okay, good.
Did a lot of winning, you see, and also it's the name of pigeon corn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then what we did, we registered the bitch, and with the Goldwyn up front, and we did the dog later.
Okay.
By doing that, we just registered one at the time, and the Kennel Club allowed it. And he wanted to go in partnership, and I wouldn't do it with the bitch, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in partnership with my son, Michael, with the dog.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's how it came about with regards to Goldwyn. And he asked me what I was going to do with the dog. And I said, well, there's only one dog in litter, and my son wants it. And I says, you know what happens after 2 weeks? They get fed up.
Yeah.
And he says, well, would you take advice? And I says, well, if it's from you, yes. And he says, this dog will sell you some quality stuff. And I says, right. For what reason? He says, you've got his dam, his granddam, which was Breeder's Dream, and your brother's got Air Dam, Jolly and Battleflame. And there's 3 generations of quality bitches at the back of this dog.
Yeah.
And he said, he will sire you some stuff. I said, well, if you don't get any ladies, that can't happen.
No. Well, it helps if there's a bitch to it, yes.
Exactly. And what he did, I showed him a few times, and he was used quite a bit. And he was the sire to Rossellio Miss Supreme.
Okay.
Judy of Jollium, and Carstaff Dancing Queen.
Okay.
They all got the title, you see.
Yes, yeah.
And there was I think there was 3 overseas champions as well. But
okay.
But we lost the dog at 5. He died at 5.
Mm.
So I didn't get a chance to use him myself.
Okay.
Which was sad. I've not used my own dog ever.
Mm. Oh, that's
But
yeah,
that's he said to me, and he was
Mhm.
quite right. So
Yeah.
what would his potential have been if he could have lived another 5 years?
Yeah. 5 is very young. I agree. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he had an
Yeah.
injury and he died
Okay.
from it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But 3 champions is very nice to look back upon for a dog.
Yes.
And you said Mr. Eltoff gave you that advice in regard to the dog. Were there other
Yes.
things that he
Yes.
told you?
Told me not to let him go.
Yeah. And were there other things that he gave you as advice?
What as regards the dog?
No, in general, for Staffords.
No, I asked him. He came back 2 weeks later, and I asked him, and he said, "You don't need any advice. Carry on doing what you're doing."
Okay.
Which I thought that was a compliment.
Yes, I would feel that as a compliment. So that's good. Yeah.
Yes.
Was
Because
was
I
Mr.
think he'd been vastly overlooked over the years, this fella.
Yeah.
People
But
don't seem to want, they don't want to know today, and they didn't then.
No.
They just let things go, and it's too late, isn't it, when they're not around?
Yes, I agree. But if we are talking about being overlooked, when I did the preparation for this interview, I was very surprised that you never judged at championship show level. You judged at open show level. What happened?
Well, I judged the dogs at the potteries
Yeah,
in '84,
yeah,
and the only one person gave me a chance at judging at breed club level
yeah.
was Lionel Lemstock.
Okay, yes, yeah, from the
And that,
Jollyham Camels.
yes, and he tended there.
Okay,
So if coming to championship show level, I haven't got the criteria to do give tickets out
okay.
because I'm not stewarded and I'm not gone over enough dogs.
No. But when you look back on your time in Staffords, do you think you missed an opportunity by not having judged?
Well, no, I think it's more important to read something that's respectable,
Okay.
don't you?
Yes, I agree with you, but this is not about me. This is about you. And actually, when I did the preparation for this interview, well, what I do is I look at photos and I try to find information. And there I saw that lovely photo of the both of you. Helen, very nice dressed, and you were standing next to Helen as a very proud father. So I thought those are both championship show judges because of you being so long in the breed. And there was my surprise that you never judged at championship show level. So that was my surprise.
I'm sorry, Bianca, but what happened? I was on 2 breed club lists,
Okay.
which I am not anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
I was taken off. My name came up at a meeting, a breed club meeting, and somebody answered for me and said, "Oh, he'll not judge."
Okay.
Well, that's not the proper way to invite somebody. You put pen to paper,
No.
don't you?
No.
The kennel club rules are you don't ask at a bar, you write to the person that's involved.
Yes. Fully agree.
These 2 clubs never wrote to me ever.
Okay. No.
So somebody made a decision for me.
Yeah. But Helen, if we go to you, you judge at championship show level. But obviously, being born in a dog family doesn't really mean that you become a judge. You also have a brother and sister who are not involved with the dog world as much, at least as I know, as you are. At what stage did you think I want to become a championship show judge?
It was never a decision of mine to be a judge. My aim when I first started handling my dad's dogs was just to be as successful as my father. So for me to be a judge, it was an honour to be asked. But I did turn down several shows prior to me starting my judging career. In regards to that, I think people need to serve in an apprenticeship, i.e. breeding and stuff like that. So for me as a youngster, it wasn't an aim. It was this chap here, he has big shoes to fill. So yeah.
Yeah.
A name of mine, to be fair.
Yeah. So for you, becoming a judge was not a goal on its own, but it was more a logical things of events that happened after you felt that you have done your apprenticeship.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good. When we talk about judges, and this question is for you both, it's considered that judges by their decisions have an influence on the breed. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's important when you look at your CV, to judge at this level. But what I can't understand, all breed clubs have a different criteria how many dogs you've gone over to give tickets out at their show.
Yes.
I just can't understand that.
No.
Why the kennel club allow that? They all vary.
Yeah.
The breed clubs all vary with how many dogs you've gone over to be on the A list.
Okay. So there's no general rule, for instance, that the breed that the breed council would say all clubs have to be on the same level of number of dogs.
No, there's nothing like that. I mean,
No.
when Helen got Bath at her own club, she was 7 dogs short.
Okay.
And they asked if she was on a breed club list, and she said no.
No.
And bear in mind, I think at the time I was asked to judge Bath, I'd got 3 dogs made up as champions. I could say, you know, I was 7 dogs short. It makes me happy a bit. Bear in mind from the background that I come from as well. So I think I was overlooked quite some time before I was made tickets out.
Yeah. If she'd have had the quota of them 7 dogs, doesn't make her a better judge.
No, no, I agree on that one.
Yes, and the Bath Canine Society, she told them, and they says, well, asked Helen, she says, who owns the CCs? And Helen says, the Kennel Club. He says, well, they'll tell you whether you can judge or not. He granted the Bath.
Yeah.
Although she was 7 dogs short on her own club.
Yeah, yeah. But if you talk about judging, of course, do you think that a judge can influence the breed? Like, for instance, we have a ring of dogs, and Helen, you give a ticket to a dog. Do you think by doing so you have a bit of influence on what is happening to that dog in regard to being asked for stats and things like that?
Oh yeah, I think it does have an impact with whatever dog I choose.
Yeah.
You know, people come to watch me as a judge, and obviously what my standard of judging is. So yeah, I do think it has an impact on you as a judge, to be fair.
Yeah. Has it ever happened to you that you heard the name of a dog, got a ticket that you never heard before, and that you looked up how the dog was bred and how it looked like?
Yes, I judged Driffield Championship Show.
Yeah.
I put a bitch up, a red bitch, and when I got back, I looked up the bitch's pedigree, and the bitch comes back to our breeding.
Ah, so there was a bit of familiarity in the bitch.
Yeah. This bitch came from the Czech. They came over to the UK and showed under me, and it was a shock when I got home and started doing my critiques and looking at the dog breeding. It went back to my breeding and mine and my father's breeding.
Yeah, you see, Bianca, that bitch, as the sire to it was out of Golden Conquest, and the dam was out of Taylor, which is Golden Arcade.
Okay.
Through that mating, it produced this bitch. She'd never seen it before.
No.
That's a true true resemblance on your stock, what you're breeding to.
Yeah. So that was a nice surprise to find out after all. But when we are talking about other champions, the Goldwyn has also been very successful in the show ring. You have won Crufts a few times.
All right.
Yeah, you did. You also won National Terriers. And for those that have looked at the film that I made for promotion for this interview, I only put up Crufts and National Terrier. There have been much more wins that should have been mentioned, but there is only so much space that I can put in. But if you look back, what was your best win that you thought, okay, if I could do that day over again, what day would that be?
Right. I think it's got to be my first time at Cross with Leading Star.
Yeah.
See, because when I got it before, I got to made up before I went to Cross, you see, in 81.
Mm-hmm.
I won my first CC under Norman Berry of Rendon, and they weren't long at coming, and I think, because it took me 16 years to win a challenge certificate.
Okay.
I didn't start at top like some of them do.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's only one way, you know, when you're at top, you come down.
Yeah.
So it was, I think it's got to be 81 with Leading Star. And then, of course, it kicked in with Daughter in 83 and 84.
Yes, because
The icing on the cake.
Yeah, of course. I can imagine. Well, that's brilliant if you can do that with mother and daughter.
Yeah.
When I looked at the dogs, your champions, I saw that not all the dogs carry the Goldwyn kennel name. What's the story behind that one?
Well, as I said earlier, Bianca, that Goldwyn, we just used to register one puppy. And they used to grant it the Kennel Club. And we tried on numerous occasions to have this affix, and we got turned down because it was very similar to a name in another breed. So we got objection.
It took us quite some time to get the affix. We've had the Goldwyn affix in place now, 10 years. So we had a litter 7 months back, and it wasn't until then we was able to call the whole litter Goldwyn. So that's the first litter in all the years my dad's been breeding that we were able to call all the litter Goldwyn.
Yeah, and we are talking about champion My Girl. She was bred by you and owned by you, but
yes.
There's also champion Jupiter's Destiny and champion Quest for Fame. You owned those dogs. Quest for Fame being a dog and a bitch. How did that work? Did you place the mothers so you have a bit more space at home, and you took a puppy bitch back, or?
Jupiter's Destiny, our Destiny, was My Girl's little sister.
So she was placed out on breeding terms, and we had a Jupiter's Destiny back from that. In regards to My Girl, quote me if I'm wrong, obviously My Girl, in her litter, there was four in the litter, and as we were saying, we called one of the dogs in that litter Goldwyn, which was Red Marauder. So obviously we weren't able to attach the Goldwyn affix to champion My Girl. And then obviously Quest for Fame.
Yes.
Going back to Quest for Fame, that was through friends of ours who had dogs from us, which my dad will probably touch on.
Yes.
On that in regards to the breeding and
Quest for Fame came out of Little Goddess, and Little Goddess's dam was Father's Pied Princess, who was the full litter sister to Rogue Saga. So it's all that blood again. You see, coming up from Leading Lad, East Half Danham, which Miss Brightmore bred his staff Danham, who is now Mrs. Shorrocks.
Yeah.
Then it came into Dreadnought, and Ringmaster, Jockertan Royal Tan, and the Malaysia Mauler, and so forth on to Rogue Saga. All that blood came up from Leading Lad and his son, Golden Boy of Osira, and his staff Danham.
Yeah.
All in this stock today.
Yeah. For those watching this at home, perhaps live or perhaps afterwards, we are talking now about the M line.
Yes.
M line is, I think, the most prominent line in Staffordshire Bull Terriers at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Jack Altoff's Gainus Lady was of family 3 line. They all went in numbers, you see.
Yeah.
A little bit complicated to talk about other lines, but the main line which came up from Gainus Lady was family 3.
Okay.
And you see, when Jack used Brindle Bill, before he could get to do it to get repeated again, he died, you see, and he used his poor little brother, Sonny Bill. The terminology, brothers in blood.
Yeah.
That's how they came. And that's how it came about, as it doubled up on everything, you see.
Okay. Yeah. And for those, again, if you are more interested, the information about lines is quite easy to find. For those that are lucky enough to have at home a Belby book, there is information about the trees, the family lines. So there's a lot of information to be found, but you have to look a bit for it. But the Goldwyn line can be said that is M line. Am I correct, Peter?
M line, yes, family 3.
Okay, good.
Because there's other family lines involved now anyway, like where I'm on about the foundation bit was a family 3 dog.
Okay, thank you so much. I think this is new for some in our breed. We actually do have lines, and yes, we do have family trees also in Staffordshire Bull Terriers. That's the reason why we do this kind of talks. I've got a question for you both. You are sitting very nice together on the sofa, hopefully having a bit of a good time. You look like you agree on everything, but I might be wrong here. Is there something in the breed standard that you disagree upon, that you think, okay, Helen, I think it should be like this, and Peter, it must be different?
In regards to the breed standard, I think we're pretty much of a similar opinion. So when it comes to the standard, I think we agree on it together. When it comes to using particular dogs and to progress with our breeding, we have to agree to disagree on some of the opinions that we have.
It's discussed between 3 of us, and after 20 minutes they find out I'm right.
Okay, because actually, Goldwyn, you two are sitting on the sofa, but when you look at the pedigree, there's your name, Peter. Helen, your name is there, but there's also the name of Mrs. Sheila Wall, your wife, Peter, your mom, Helen. You are doing this with the 3 of you. In a team, usually there is a team captain. I'm a bit afraid to ask, but who is the team captain in your team?
I've just told you after 20 minutes, but you decide I'm right.
Okay. I'm waiting for Sheila to come in the room, but
I'm the captain. I walk him and do stuff. He gets them ready for show, and I'm the showman after. I get all the praise now from it.
Yeah,
right.
Because
coming back to the standard, you've got to have a standard to keep it at a level, haven't you?
Yeah.
Only thing I would question about the standard is the weight clause. Very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you look at the ratio from 14 to 15 and a half and 14 and a half to 16.
Yeah.
When you're going over dogs in a ring, when there's like a few years ago, when you've got 200 dogs to go over, that's a lot to remember.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
To stick to that size of that dog as regards the standard.
Yeah,
I think it's very difficult.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I had two dogs, as I've mentioned earlier, 2 bitches, particularly bitches. And I used to weigh them every year at Crufts when it first started, which was Olympia, before Earl's Court, on jockey scales. And leading start were always 34 pounds.
Okay, yeah.
Now, her daughter was 4 pounds heavier, and you wouldn't have said she was. Difficult thing, unless you use scales.
Yeah, yeah, because some people will rely on their eye and what they think, and you only know for certain if you weigh. But you mentioned that you weigh your bitches for Crufts. Was that something that was obligatory that you needed to do, or was that?
No, it was at Crufts we did it. They just used to do it voluntary. You could just,
Okay.
put your dogs on scale and get a little card with weighting your dog on, you see. And she was always 34 pounds leading star. As I said to you, her daughter always 4 pounds heavier. And you wouldn't have thought so.
Yeah. Yeah, the eye sometimes deceives. Yeah, yeah. I think we could have some surprises if we would now put a scale at some show rings. And perhaps also measure them a bit, but that's another discussion, I think.
No, leave well alone that.
We don't go that way.
I've seen that done with a measure.
Okay, yeah, yeah. It's been done in the Netherlands also on one show where they actually weighed the dogs and also measured them. So yeah, gives a bit of insight.
It's a sticky one, that, but like I say, weight clause, as I said, everything about the Stafford was an imaginary dog when it was set up the standard. It was an imaginary dog because the dog they set the standard off weren't a typical Stafford as today. So the old timers wanted to get away from them dogs.
Yeah.
And a lot of people seem to think we ought to be going back to them.
Okay. Yeah. So what you're actually saying is that it's believed there were a couple of dogs there, but actually the people who drew up the standard were working towards the future.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think looking recently over Facebook, there's been quite a few pictures of old dogs cropping up. It's very difficult to compare the dogs from 20, 30, 40 years ago to the current Staffordshire Bull Terrier. As my father said, the standard was created on a fictitious dog and what they aim to get to. And I think that's where we're at now at the minute, with where we need to get with the Stafford. We don't want to go back.
No.
You see, Bianca, when the standard was set and it was recognised in 35, the war came on in 39 to 45, as you quite well know. Well, they was compelled to a 25-mile radius with showing and breeding. So they had to use the next best thing. And we hadn't got established like the Bull Terriers were established in late 1800s, you see. They went down the show route way before us.
Yeah.
So they were more established. And it was difficult for these people when they first set out.
Yeah.
I don't think it's appreciated that, that how it served these old timers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably saw the end product, and it's sad that. I don't know what you think of that. I don't know what you're asking me, aren't you?
No, thank you for sharing your thoughts.
No,
anyway,
it's true. In all breeds of dogs, they couldn't go travel because of war.
Yeah,
I think things now, like my dad said, we're finding things now when it comes to breeding so easy now because we're doing the artificial insemination. Whereas years back, as my dad said, they didn't have that, and it was obviously confined to a radius which is just covered. So yeah, it is a lot easier now, I think, to find something to to fit your dog.
You see, when you look at, like at Altoff, I mean, leading lad were born in 48. Now, he went to shows, it was bus and train, he hadn't got a car. People hadn't got cars then.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
When you think about it, and they were midweek shows, and he used to send his daughter with the dog, because he couldn't have time off work.
Yeah.
You know, when today, it's quite easy today to travel. When these people, when they first got a vehicle, it was a motorbike and sidecar. So dog was sidecar, here on bike.
Yeah. Different times.
And you think what he achieved, 13 cc's in them years was quite good.
Yeah,
when you
especially.
When they got to go down, you know, up to Scotland, 300 or 400 miles on bus and train, did remarkably well.
Yes, I fully agree on that one. Imagine you must getting up and you think I must go to Scotland with bus and train. I think most of us would say we go back to bed nowadays.
Don't forget, they've got to come home.
Anyway, when we come to breeding, also has changed a bit of the way of breeding has changed. There has come legislation, and I just quote what Robert Oppenheimer once said.
All right.
Here he comes. Robert Oppenheimer recommended half-brother and half-sister matings, which connected a great dog or bitch. Also, grandsons and granddaughters are the best form of line breeding, using specimens with the least faults and the best virtues. He said that breeders should be guided by breed type and they should avoid outcrosses where possible. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, we've just done a half-brother, half-sister mating, so as it stands, we agree. And I think, as probably my father will agree, I think when you do that, you need to know your bloodlines, and that's why we've just done that, haven't we?
Yeah, you see, he's right. Providing what you're doing it with is good.
Yeah.
Because when you're doubling up genetically, you don't double up on your good points, you double up on your bad.
Yeah.
You see, and it's see what we've done in the past. A lot of our stocks come down from little brother and sisters, or two brothers. Their stock mated back to one another. That's what we've done. We've not done grandfather, granddaughter, but just of late we've done half brother, half sister, and we informed the kennel club, and they said if you know what you're doing, carry on with it. But they didn't recommend it, you see, now. And coming back to Goldwyn Arcade, the dog we use, Rincho Valentino, his dam, East Disease, came out of Quest for Fame, who was mated to his 4 little brother's daughter or boy. Okay. Now you can't do that now.
No.
So going back to your question, yes, we agree with.
We agree.
Thank you very much.
Agreeing with Oppenheimer, he was right. He proved himself right, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, Robert Oppenheimer is, of course, very well famous for his bull terriers.
Yes, and he was all right financially, you know, he was. It went a problem to him, his finances.
Yeah. So, what did you ever meet Robert Oppenheimer? Or
I saw him in 65. I do 65 or 66. He judged the bull terriers at Notts and Derby, because there was joint with the Notts and Derby Staffordshire Bull Terrier Club.
Okay.
So they was always together till about 1974. Then they went their separate ways. Which no other club did that.
No. So there was
Bull Terrier and Staffordshire Bull, yeah.
So they did that on the same day?
Yes, they were together.
Okay. And Robert Oppenheimer actually judged Staffordshire Bull Terriers.
Yes.
Okay. Because I believe he had some diamond mines in South Africa.
Oh, yes, he owned diamond mines in South Africa, yes. and he had a kennel lady called Miss Wetherill, who did the showing and his kennels and the mated and everything.
Okay.
So he was financially okay, you see.
And he went around and he had made sure that the dogs were well looked after by the kennel mate.
Yes, it was Miss Wetherill, yes.
Okay, okay. You see, behind every great man, there's a good woman. Don't we agree on that, Helen?
Very knowledgeable person. Very knowledgeable.
Okay, thank you very much for this answer. Then we come to another part in the breed standard, and that's movement. Alan Mitchell, Hoplite Kennels, in 1980 wrote an article with the nice title. I've read the article a few times because I think it's a very good one. And it says the standard with no movement in it, which was correct in 1980. Because it was not until 1987, the third breed standard, that there was something about movement in the breed standard.
Yes.
What's your opinion about how movement is described in the breed standard?
I think that's another difficult one, because I do believe when you move the dog on the mat, he doesn't move same on grass. So which one does the movement in the standard cover?
Yeah.
Do you agree?
They seem to pick when they
yes, they'll pick their way through grass.
They do move totally different, like my dad says, on a mat. So again, it's difficult to describe a movement on two different surfaces.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough emphasis. They should have sort dogs out that they think is very good movers and have some seminars.
Okay.
And show how they should move. Show how they should move. Because I don't think a lot of people are aware how a Stafford should go.
Yeah. Personally, I think that a movement has been put into the breed standard because it needed to be there. There was nothing in it. Do you believe that how it's described, and of course, I fully agree about the surface on which it moves, but does it do justice at all at movement for Staffordshire Bull Terrier? If I would say to you or ask you, can you describe movement in a Staffordshire Bull Terrier? How would that be described by you?
Well, obviously they should move parallel, and you've got to look at your dog's outline. Are they upright in the shoulder? Are they moving from the shoulder or the wrist?
Yeah.
And then the back leg should neatly follow it with drive.
Yeah.
In a line.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? When you look at conformation and you're looking at the angulation in the shoulder, you can tell them when they move away if they're right here. No matter how much you stand them, when they move away, everything goes back to its natural stance. You see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because obviously,
and when we come to talk about tail carriage in movement.
Tail carriage. I think
gone out the window.
It's something that we are losing. They're carrying the tail far too high. The set is too high, and as the standards say, it should be a pump handle tail. And there's not many now that actually have the pump handle tail. But again, when it comes to movement, a lot are starting to carry the tail a lot higher.
You see, you know the first cross, when they crossed the bull with the terriers, various terriers, they didn't get a pump handle tail from the bulldog and they didn't get it from the terriers. That pump handle tail comes in through whippets.
Okay.
Well, just think about it. This pump handle tail doesn't come from these dogs that I've mentioned. It comes from the whippet.
Yeah.
Because when they were the first crossers, nobody knew what was in some of these breeds, and they've set a standard to a pump handle tail. Now, how could they set standard from a bulldog and a terrier? There's only one dog that carries a pump handle tail. That's either a greyhound or a whippet. You can see with ears as well. There's whippets' ears there. These thin ears come from whippets.
Yeah.
And how they carry them, and it's still prominent in some dogs today. So we've set a dog up there with something that they didn't know. Well, they did know what was there because they didn't tell anybody. But that pump handle tail is going out at window. And it's difficult because the dogs I've mentioned, the terrier breeds and the bull breeds, didn't have it. So how can you get it if you carry it there?
No,
Just
and we didn't have, and of course we didn't have any DNA profile like we have nowadays to say it was that breed and that breed.
No, that's quite true.
Yeah.
These early bull crossers, they were probably some 18 inches, 17 pounds. No, there's got to be something a bit lighter in stature there, aren't they? And as we've said, I've just mentioned the tail and the ears for a start.
Yeah.
It all comes from another breed.
Yeah. When you were talking about when the breed was developed and a bit later, say the 1930s and the 1940s, and from what you've told me, you came into the breed, say, about the 60s. On Facebook, we all love Facebook because we can read so much there. And you made a statement on Facebook that says that dog shows aren't the same anymore and there are not dog persons around anymore, not proper ones anyway. What's your definition of a proper dog person?
Oh, I was going. You answered that.
No, you're a proper dog person.
I was brought up with working dogs.
Yeah.
Terrier, field trial springer my father had, lurchers. They are proper dog men. You can have a good conversation with these people. You go to dog shows, you can't.
Okay.
You can't have a conversation with them. They talk about it was hot tub they're getting in the night before.
Okay.
They do. You can't. I mentioned to one particular person, I just said, could you tell me how your dog's bred? She said, oh, I'll ask my husband. She shouted him over and he said to me, oh, I haven't got pedigree with me. They've got a champion dog. Now, this is what you're up against.
Yeah.
You cut my dad in half, Bianca, and he's got Staffordshire Bull Terrier running through his veins. That's a proper dog person for me.
Okay. That's the... I've got you, Helen.
Dog men. Real dog men.
Yeah.
And I was brought up in a litter of puppies.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Has that answered what the definition, what I say is a dog man?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that, or perhaps I make it another question. Do you believe that dog showing and having dogs was more one thing than nowadays that dog showing is just about dog showing? So that's not really, it wouldn't matter if it's a Staffordshire Bull Terrier they are showing or say a Bedlington or a Border Terrier. It's just about dog showing and it's not really because of the breed.
Yes, well, about 2 weeks ago, there was an article on Facebook, because I've only just gone on it, by the way.
Yeah, Helen told me, good.
Facebook virgin, Bianca, you can't get him off the bloody thing now.
An all-round judge, recognised by the Kennel Club, Les Crawley. Him and another judge was talking about the standards in certain breeds of dogs. He didn't mention the breeds, that the quality is not there anymore. Is it due to lack of knowledge, or is it to do with the financial side? They've noticed as all-round top judges, as they've noticed in certain breeds, how the quality of the standards, as I've said.
Yeah.
I.e., if we don't watch this with Staffords, this will follow suit, because there's not enough knowledgeable people in it.
Okay.
I'm not saying they should do what we do. I'm saying you can't talk to people as regards the bloodlines. Well, I see a pedigree, I know straight away where it goes back to.
Yeah.
Mind you, I've been around a while, by the way.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying.
It's true, isn't it? I've got the upper hand of Helen anyway, because I've been around.
He's the brave.
I mean, I could go back.
You've got the looks.
Yeah, I mean, I could go back to when Dreadnought was 4.5 weeks old.
Yeah,
I saw him.
yeah,
You see, what I can talk about is what I've seen, not what somebody else has told me.
yeah.
And it's same as you go through different eras, you get different types of dogs that you can only show what you've got. We keep getting folks on criticising these old dogs, you know, that's got the title and it's unfair. There's one on today. There's one on today. Will this dog have won today? Now that's not fair. That's not fair when somebody's give 3 cc plus. It's not fair to keep bringing these old dogs back up. Would they have won today? And it's same with this. There's an article coming up now, you know, on about the deep stop.
Yeah.
Do you want me to give you my definition?
Yes, please. Feel free. It's your interview, Peter. So I guess
they're trying to say this stop's getting that deep, it'll affect the breathing. Before we use a person's dog, I like to see him on a warm day, very hot day.
Okay.
And to see if it's clacking. You know what I mean with clacking, don't you?
Yeah.
Soft balance.
Yeah.
And if he's got that, I don't go there. So if he's right there, and these nose holes is wide enough,
which is creeping in again with the nose.
And that's creeping in.
Getting too small.
So that's the first thing we do. That's nothing to do with the stop. It's to do with the makeup of the dog.
Yes.
Which that comes from bull anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you're saying.
Be careful whose dog you're using.
Yeah. So actually what you're saying is that when you are looking for a stud dog for your bitch, you actually look, you want to see the dog not in person, of course, but you want to see the dog in real life. You want to hear how he breathes. And you also look at the nostrils, as that gives an indication if he's able to breathe freely. What other things do you take in account when you're looking for a stud dog?
Yeah, just coming back to that with nostrils, that's the only thing when he's what he was bred for, and he's got hold of a dog, that's all he does, he breathes up there.
Yeah.
And it's important they should be wide.
Yeah.
So to get some air. And that's very important.
Yeah.
And coming back to what other things I look for, as I've said, that's important to me and has been over the years. And is the paperwork's got to be right? That's if it's true.
Yes.
Right? Because all it tells you on that pedigree is the dog's name. It don't tell you if he's got pricked ears, does it? It don't tell you if he's got a kinked tail and bad feet. It don't tell you nothing, only the dog's name. But yes, this dog we use now, we know, we've been half brother, half sister. We know everything about him. And we visited him at his home. And it was quite warm. We made sure it was warm.
Yeah.
Going back to that though, Bianca, on this last meeting, when it come to making the decision, my dad said to me, "You've got the reins now, you choose the dog." So there was several dogs which I had in mind. And bear in mind, like I said, I go back to my dad and say, "What about this dog? What about this dog?" And he's like, "Well, you've got this in the pedigree and you've got this in the pedigree." And words of advice, he said to me, "Better the devil you know than the devil you don't know." And that made my decision on the dog I chose with this letter that I've had today, I've got today. So,
yeah.
So knowing what I know, I did what I needed to do. So he answered my question without even saying you need to use this dog. He just says the better the devil you know than the devil you don't know.
Yes.
So,
And that was your 18th generation of Goldwyn.
That was the 17th?
17.
17th
We're
generation.
17 generations on, and then there's others beyond that to the founder dog with more. Well, what happened? We got stuck for a bit, you see, Bianca.
Mm-hmm.
And a lady came from France to use our kid.
Yeah.
And she did agility. And she said through an interpreter, she liked our stock because they could deal with the heat. Because she lives well down in France, nearer to Spain, where it's warm. And with this agility, and when she brought this bitch, nearly all the stuff at back of this bitch was from here.
So she knew what she was looking for.
There was no overseas dogs.
No.
And our kid's little brother was on the other side of pedigree. So by using him, we got all that stock together. And she let us have a bitch. She asked us if we wanted a bitch. We said yes. And that's how we got it. Well, this lady had another litter with the same dam to a Welsh dog, a Tasmanic dog.
Okay.
And this is where this dog comes from, what we've used. So it makes it half brother, half sister, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got all that stock, which I've never had before, from what we've done on both sides of pedigree.
I think what my dad's telling you is, Bianca, that I did a good job at choosing the dog. I think that's what he's saying. He's saying I did a good job. Is that right?
I'm not going to raise
many words. He used many words to say that you did a good job, Helen. I agree on that one. That's good. Wonderful.
Next question.
Next question. Okay, here you go. I've got that one. That's a nice one. The three of us are sitting here together. We are having a nice chat. But if you would have the opportunity to invite a fourth person, alive or dead, which is impossible, but there you go. There's an imaginary setting. Who would you invite and why? Or perhaps you even want to invite two persons.
I'll go first because I know this one. So for me, I would invite a gentleman called Mr. Paul Wilkinson.
Okay.
And why is I can have a conversation with him and I would call him a dog man.
Okay.
Who's yours?
It's difficult.
Take your time, Peter.
I am doing. I want to be honest with you. I want to be.
Yes, and don't be political. We can clip this one. Not going to happen, but just say whatever you think.
Yeah, mine's still alive. So
you see, I didn't have much time with Jack Oltoff, but what you know, as history proved how good he were, and it were unfortunate. He died before I could really get to know him, kind of thing, and influence on.
It's getting dark.
Really, I've not had no influence, apart from I've done my own thing, you see. So as regards, because it's hard to explain, because a lot of these old timers, you were lucky if they said good morning to you. When I started showing, you couldn't communicate with them.
And why was that? Because they weren't friendly.
I don't know whether because I were only 21.
Yeah.
They talk to my wife. Mind you, she's better looking than me, so that's happened reason.
Yeah.
But that's how it were. You couldn't communicate with these people because they didn't allow you in.
No.
And if you said good morning, you was very lucky.
Okay. And at what stage did they start to talk, or did they never talk, or?
No. there was one particular judge, he's still alive today. He talked to my wife, but he wouldn't talk to me. And as I said to you, it took me 16 years to win a challenge certificate. And then he sent to say good morning to me when I got one to the top, you see. That's just how it were.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
It's a shame.
there was an old timer called Fred Holden, you know, of Freedom Affix. And a lady said to him, could you tell me, Mr. Holden, because he got 3 dogs there, which is the right type? And he says, the one that I'm stood in the ring with at the time. So that's what he said. That will end the story.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. To be honest, I'll tell you who a very knowledgeable fella, and he was a quiet fella. That was Lionel Lenstock.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, and as I said to you earlier, he was the only one that gave me a chance at a breed club. I didn't get nine societies, you know, like 4 classes and that.
Yeah.
And he said to me, oh, you're judging our show. And I said, why have I been past? He says, I say who judges our show. And you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the story again.
Yeah.
Yes. Very, very influential fella, I thought. Very, very, very cool chap who played his cards close to his chest, as they say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for what I knew personally, would have to be him.
Okay. Okay.
Very knowledgeable.
For those that are watching, and Mr. Lionel Hemstock is the father of Mrs. Sarah Hemstock, who also judged. So that to complete the whole picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice one. So you see that between you there are some nice pics to be made and some memories popping up. So that's good. But imagine you were talking about the fact that when you started, the people with a lot of knowledge, let them call the top breeders or whatever you would call them, they weren't easy approachable. What if?
They didn't seem to talk to you.
No. That's a shame.
It's sad because these people that I've admired. I mean, there's a particular fella that's alive in dogs. He's never ever spoke to me. This gentleman, I'll not mention no names. He's never ever spoke to me.
Oh, shame.
You're getting out of it now.
Yeah. But that's a shame.
But extraordinary. Like people you'd admire, like coming back to this line, you know, with the Goldwyn line, when you look at Mrs. Horsfall, Dennybeck, Mrs. Brooks, Broccoli, all these people, I could name numerous because they're about fence and pitbull. They're all that stuff. That stock of that down from leading lad, and they didn't seem to connect with you even when I had leading star. They didn't connect with you.
Yeah,
it's sad, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, but I think that times have changed, and perhaps Facebook also has a bit of positive influence on this. Not everything is good about Facebook, but it makes sometimes making connections easier. But when we are talking about giving newcomers advice and things like that, if I was a newbie in the breed and I would knock on your door, what kind of advice would you give me?
Well, you see, I'm never mixed with a lot of these people because I lived in an area where there was no one to talk to, you see. You know, there were no neighbours, somebody about 5 mile up road you could have a conversation with. I'd got nobody. And I don't drink, so I don't get to these here barbecues, you know. Yeah, these barbecues now, you know, and hot tubs and all this job. I'm not involved in that.
So she's asking about your advice. What advice would you give Bianca? She wanted to get into the breed.
Well, I always think took my decision sportingly, and I think that's a good thing. Because you know all the best judges are on the ringside, you know.
Yeah.
As you quite well know, it's same as football, as you know. All the best players are this side the white line.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I say, don't get involved and don't let it get you down. The advice, just carry on doing what you want to do.
I think if you listen to a lot of people, when I've judged, I've heard people talking about my decisions. I've got quite a few knives in my back. However, I don't let it bother me and I just carry on. So like my dad said, just take people's decisions sportingly. And it's always been the case when I've not been successful showing my dogs. So
Yeah.
Another conversation on the way home.
Yes, I think we always have the best conversations home.
Instead of the ringside, it should be on the way home.
Yeah.
So me and my dad have a lengthy conversation when we're driving home from the shows about decisions or whether I've been judging or what.
Yeah. When you have been judging, Helen, and you have done quite frequently the last few years in the UK, and if you go to a judging appointment together and you drive home, what happens in the car? Does Peter say, Helen, you did a top job, or is it very quiet and silent, and who's going to speak the first word?
It's not silent, Bianca.
No, I've never questioned their judging.
No.
Because it's her day, not mine.
Yeah.
Never questioned it. And you can ask me to tell you if I've questioned their judging. Have I ever questioned your judging?
No. Never questioned me whatsoever. We have a conversation and he'll say, and what did you think about that dog? And I gave him my opinion, and then he said, oh, right. Because as my dad said earlier, when you're at the ringside, you can't see what the judges is seeing when they've got the hands. You see with these.
Yeah.
So he would say, well, why did you do that there? So he never questioned me, but he just asked me why I did that. And I explained why, and he could see. So, yeah. And when the picture you were talking about earlier with me and my father,
beautiful.
that was taken, that was my first champ show that I judged at Bath. And he's my right-hand man. And I can remember judging, and I felt like a gazelle in the ring. My dad was like a lion. He was parading around that ring. And I was concentrating on the dog, but I could see this figure moving round. And I knew it was my dad. I can't put a foot wrong. And I was so nervous. And he asked me about the dog that I put up, and he was my best dog, which I think I'll talk about him later. He asked me about what I thought to him, and I said, I really like this dog. And he said, I agree with you. And I'm like, oh, I've done a good job there. And I think that day it made that dog into a champion, which is Eclipse staff, because I can. So it made him up into a champion. So I think when my dad said, what was your opinion on the dog? I gave him my opinion, and I think he was happy with my choice of dog that day.
Yeah,
you were upset with me because I got into an argument. I got a bit heated.
I could hear him arguing with somebody at the ringside.
A group judge said, are you all right? And I says, yes. He says, you should be in there judging. I just said, well, I was never asked.
Yeah.
He said, well, I've asked you to judge. I says, yes, I think I'm worth a bit more than 4 classes at Sedgley and Gornal.
Yeah.
So I could hear my dad arguing, and I'm like, please don't get in a fight. And I could hear him, and I kept checking.
But that's what he said. When he said he'd asked me, it was for 4 classes at Sedgley and Gornal.
Yeah, but Helen, you were judging and you hear that argument, but you didn't know what the subject was.
He's a group judge, and I were in breed 20 years before him. So and he said that.
The conversation when we was going home, Bianca, was what the blooming heck was you arguing about?
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
He was upset because obviously somebody was basically saying that he should be judging at champ show levels. Yeah, I agree. He should have been judging at champ show levels, but he was never given the opportunity.
As I said, Bianca, I says you was on a certain club committee, and they were four sat at front of him on seats in front of me.
Yeah.
I says you never ever wrote to me from this club.
No.
And that's when he said, I've asked you. And that's when I said what I've just said.
Yeah. But when we are talking about clubs, of course, the clubs invite judges. But clubs in general have played a big role in the history of our breed, and especially in the UK, where there are over 15 clubs. I believe there's 16, 70 at the moment, whereas in the Netherlands we only have got one. It's a difficult time. Do you think that how does the future of clubs look like, in your opinion? Is it like a pink cloud, or should they come together and work as one? Or what's your opinion about that?
That's difficult, isn't it? That's difficult through committees. Yeah. Right. I'll just name you a few. Merseyside, Allen and Deeside. What's that we're down on South Coast, Helen? Downlands. There was none of any of those, you know, when I started.
No.
There's a lot of clubs sprung up, you know, because Stafford's got popular. And there wasn't many breed clubs that give CCs out either. Notts and Derby had to prove over a period of, I can't remember how long it was, a period of a few years, to prove their entries were right for the Kennel Club to accept Notts and Derby as a champ show. I mean, you've got your main clubs, obviously, parent club, haven't you? Potteries. There were one up Scotland. North Eastern, they never give tickets out. When I first started, they were very poor represented up North Eastern. Look at them now.
Yeah.
It's quite good, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
definitely.
You mentioned all these clubs, what you've got. There weren't so many here then.
Okay.
You see, Allen and Deeside, that got on to registered, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's difficult times at the minute, I think.
Yeah, especially with the strange times.
Sometimes somebody got to die, you know, for you to be able to get on committee. And nobody seems to want it anymore.
Nobody's wanting to do their apprenticeship, serving it on a committee now. It's very difficult. As my dad said, you know, I think you have to serve an apprenticeship on a committee to get the knowledge, do it in. I mean, I served several years at Sheffield Bull Breeds, which is a club that's folded. And that was a club with all the bull breeds involved.
Covered all bull breeds. That was the only one in Britain.
So I served my stewarding apprenticeship there, and then went on to Notts and Derby for quite a few years.
Yeah.
So a lot of people at one time, if we aren't naming anybody in names, they only went on committee to get judging. Because they got CC status, they got family commitments. See, when they get CC status, it crops up. It's a regular thing. We've got family commitments. I've got to resign. That's what they used to do.
Yeah.
Difficult, isn't it? Very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I think especially nowadays it's hard to get people on the committee. When I look what's happening all around a bit, and people change very quickly also in positions in committees.
Yes, exactly.
And is that different to the early days, say 30 years ago?
Well, as I said, Bianca, you were lucky to get on a committee. You couldn't get on because somebody got to die for you to get on a committee, because it were well sought after, which it ain't anymore.
Yeah, no.
And it's sad, really.
Yeah, but times have changed, and we are going back to the subject of dogs. What's
Correct.
the best? Always better to talk dogs. What's the best Staffordshire Bull Terrier you've bred? And do you agree on that one?
I agree on all of them. like I said, I have to agree to disagree with him sometimes. But best, I think, for me, looking back, I think the best Staffy Bull Terrier that my dad's bred is Goldwyn Leading Star.
Oh, I agree there. Yes, I would second that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the dogs that we've bred, but I think for me, looking back as a child growing up, when I judge, I have her in my head because she fits the standard like a glove. So when I judge, I always read the breed standard. I read it every time I judge. And then I have that picture, and automatically that picture is of champion Goldwyn Leading Star.
Yeah. And what for you makes her stand out?
What made her stand out? For me, I think, as I said, she fit the standard like a glove. She stood square. She had the ideal movement. Bear in mind, I was only a little girl when my dad bred Leading Star. But yeah, she had great expression. She had a lovely front, very short and compact. And like I said, she just fit the standard for me. And like I said, that's what I aim to sort of breed to.
Yeah, yeah. And if you were to pick a second one, if you had to make a top two, okay, this is the hard one because the favorite is always easy, but you have some more to choose from. Which one would you put on the second place?
Second place. What we've bred?
Yes.
Okay. I'd say oh boy for me.
I think it's not necessarily got to be a champion, you know, Bianca.
No.
I mean, I could name your dogs now, and you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. They come to season, they've gone.
For me, I another dog. For me, oh boy, which was Champion Quest for Fame's little brother. At the time, I was showing both brothers, but it came down to money. So I had to split the two. I had little success with Oh Boy. I won Crufts in 1995. I got best puppy dog with him. And then I'd alternate the shows. So I started showing Quest for Fame and got him to the top. And Oh Boy got pushed to one side. But for me, I think he as a joint ownership at that point, Oh Boy would be my second choice.
Yeah.
I don't know about yours.
I don't know. I think I'll go for Jupiter's Destiny. You know,
we didn't breed it though.
No, we didn't breed you. See, same with the Breeder's Dream. You know, she was a lovely little thing. She was, you know.
Yeah.
She never liked it, but she was a lovely compact dog. It's difficult, really.
So Breeder's Dream was a trap.
Well, which my brother bred her, actually. So so it's difficult, really.
But it's nice when there isn't one answer to this question, because then you really have something to choose from. And I think as a breeder, if you have to think about this question, what's the best one you ever bred, is either they are not worth mentioning as best one, or there's really something to choose from. And I think the last opportunity applies to you.
Basically, it's just splitting hairs between the lot. To present champion that we have, it's just splitting hairs.
Yeah.
If you look back on Leading Star, she was the end product of a few years of hard work.
Yeah.
Do you understand where I'm coming from, Bianca?
Yes, fully.
I mean, we improved and improved and improved. So she was the end product. So that's why I favoured Leading Star, you see.
Yeah. And if we are not talking about your own breeding, but about other people's breeding, what do you consider the best Stafford you ever saw? And
dog or bitch?
Or both?
Both. So I would like to have 4 names, please. 2 dogs, 2 bitches.
You got yours too.
Yes, I've got them. Can I mention 3?
Because you are Peter, you can mention 3.
Because of different eras.
Yes, please. Yes.
He's wrote this down.
He's been preparing. Oh, that's good.
Knight Templar, champion Knight Templar, champion Jolly Mel Toro.
Yes.
Both similar type dogs, one was a little bit stronger than other. I've got to mention Denny Beckard Diamond. That's a little, yeah, he was a nice dog, he was. Showed him till he was 6, never got him made up. Alec Waters used him and got 2 champion dogs out of him.
Yeah.
And this lad couldn't get him to the top.
And do you know for whatever reason, or?
Well, I don't know what to say about that.
It's playing his cards close, Bianca. It's playing his cards close.
Okay, no, then we don't go there. Then we don't go.
No, leave that alone.
So for me, so my dad's more gone for the past dogs. So for me, I'll go for the present dogs for me. So for the dog, is the dog I mentioned earlier, which was my CC winner at Bath, which was Eclipse Staff, because I can. And the bitch, I would go for, is it Chalmers, Molly Malone at Fergustaff. She's a bitch I was competing against with Jupiter's Destiny. And she was a bitch that I feared. So if I came first, I knew Leanne would be second with her bitch, or vice versa. We was always in the top 2 when we were campaigning those 2. So for me, it's got to be Molly Malone for me at Fergustaff.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. If we are talking about Staffordshire Bull Terriers,
I've not named you bitches yet, have I?
Oh, sorry, Peter. You're really on the ball. Please give me your bitches. Thank you.
Right.
I apologize.
I'll go for one of the old time dogs. What I first saw her in '65. She was 4.5. St. Croix Sabu.
Okay.
Bred by Harkness. McAvoy owned it. And that bitch, she won cross in '65. That was when I first, well, not first time, I've been before, like, but she stands out from the old time dogs, and she came out of Wakeham Dandy and St. Croix Savel.
Okay, yeah.
And that mating, there was it was done twice. There were 3 champion bitches in one litter and one in another. That was all that good. What we're talking about now from the Goldwyn. Yes. Right. So I've mentioned St. Croix Sabu. Hubble's the Promise.
Okay, yeah.
But my number 1 is Lendev Dark Star of Barnard.
I must look that one up, but I definitely will.
Lendev Dark Star of Barnard. Bred by Divines. Jimmy Divine's father bred it.
Okay, yeah.
My number 1 choice.
Yes. That's my homework for tomorrow. I will look her up.
Yes.
Any more on your list, Peter?
Sorry?
Any more on your list?
It could go on, Bianca.
There's numerous dimensions in it.
There is a lot of dogs.
But I've just told you then, like from the old timers, and this Hubble's a Promise, she was lovely put together bitch, which is the most recent one.
Yeah.
But that Lendev, that Star Barnard is my number 1 choice of all the eras.
Yeah, I will look her up.
Yes, you're a wise woman. You're a wise woman. She wasn't a red, by the way. She was a dark brindle.
Quality comes in all colors, Peter, they say.
Correct.
Anyway, recently I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, and we were talking about the balance in Staffordshire Bull Terriers, meaning between Staffordshire Bull and Terrier, so Bull and Terrier. And he spoke to me the following sentence. He said, Bianca, you must never forget, it is Staffordshire Bull Terrier and not Staffordshire Terrier Bull. By this, he meant that he wanted to see a bit more bull than terrier in the Staffordshire Bull Terrier. What's your opinion about this one?
Well, to define the more bull, it's the head, isn't it, for a start? It's the capacity of the head that gives it the bull side.
Mm-hmm.
Going back many years ago as well, a lot of the Stafford was judged on a point system.
Yeah.
So the head scored the most,
points, and the tail the least.
Yeah.
You know, scale it down. There were 100 points. You had, Gerald Dudley used to do that, you know, of Witchburn. He used to do that. He used to mark it down. But Tom, at the end of the day, you know, instead of 100 points, he's got about 110.
After he had something to drink. yeah, and actually, I know that in the point scale.
That's the bull side, isn't it? That's got to be the bulls in the head, isn't it? Because it's called the more points.
Yeah. So you think that the name Staffordshire Bull Terrier is more appropriate than Stafford Terrier Bull?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I find that a nice way of looking at things. You don't have to agree, but it gives you food for thought, and that's the reason why we're also talking here about the Staffordshire Bull Terrier.
Yeah, as long as they're not too heavy, you know, body-wise, as long as they're not too heavy.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the blend of the bull and terrier. So yeah.
I think when you look at the breed standard, again, we've been talking earlier, you look at the breed standard, it just says with agility.
Agile.
A lot of people, when they describe in the critiques, they don't put that. They use some other silly name. You know what I mean?
No, this one I don't get.
Athleticism they use. Well, it doesn't say that in the standard, it says agility.
Yeah.
And then we get this other one. I've not read it for a long while. Lacking upper arm. Well, lacking upper arms for a dog that runs.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? Upper arm, a good length of upper arms for dogs that course.
Yeah.
That's not a very nice terminology, I don't think, to describe a Stafford lacking upper arm.
Yeah.
They only used to have to, when they were doing the business, they only had to travel 9 feet, didn't they?
Yes, yeah. They didn't have to travel a long way.
Across the field, did they? To its opponent that it were going to fight. It went 9 feet, lacking upper arm.
Yeah. But when we talk about one of your champions, Champion Quest for Fame.
Yes.
In one of the critiques was that he was a very good dog, and he was, of course, he was made up a champion, but he was at one stage struggling a bit to become a champion.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yeah. I think that in some periods you see a bit more quality than in other periods. When Quest for Fame was shown, was there a lot of quality around? And what, in your opinion, was the best period for Staffords, or is the best period for Staffords?
So for me, I think we probably agree on this. So Quest for Fame, yes, we did struggle to get into the top. And I think as well, there was a lot of other dogs struggled to make the CC status. So the period, I think, was between 95 and 2000.
Yeah.
You've got dogs such as Valgo Lancer. You've got Domino Flashy Lad getting the CCs.
Both barrels.
Judel's both barrels.
There were numerous dogs on above 10 tickets. So it was a
difficult time to get Quest for Fame to the top and competing against such great dogs, which I've just mentioned. So for me, that period, I think the Staffords was at the peak for me. That's the period, I think that's where we was at the best, I think, with the Staffords.
I mean, to stand aside of some of them dogs, it were unreal. To stand aside of them quality dogs, to be present with them.
Mm-hmm.
If he hadn't have got finished off, I wouldn't have been disappointed, because there were all them quality dogs there.
Yeah, yeah,
It was a pleasure to stand at side of something like that.
yeah, yeah.
You know, when like I think I can't remember what both barrels he got quite a lot. I think Lancer got 10 or 11, Domino got 28, so it holds dogs back, doesn't it? Because obviously with a dog you can go on longer than a bitch, can't you? You see?
Yes, yeah, yeah. And of course, in our breed, we don't keep our champions at home like in other breeds.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So it's a compliment to stand with some of them dogs.
Yeah, and when you if you didn't get in the top placings and got kicked out, you got kicked out with quality dogs, especially at in open classes. With some top dogs who got no placings. So yeah, it was.
I mean, we went across with Jupiter's Destiny, and in open base there were 14 champion bitches.
Yeah,
We got a third.
It was not only quality, but also the numbers.
Bitches, you see.
Yeah.
You've got to be honest with yourself, haven't you? You've got to be honest. You are.
It helps a lot when you are honest on many occasions.
Yeah.
We have spoken about making up champions, so that are the nice moments in dogs. I can imagine that there also have not been such nice moments in dogs. Have you ever considered, like, okay, I quit dog showing, I don't want to be in dogs anymore?
No.
Never.
I like a challenge in life.
Okay, that's good.
I like a challenge.
Yeah.
Else, if I'd have been disappointed, I'd have been gone out some years ago. Because like a lot of people do, don't they? They come in for 2 seasons, they've gone.
Yeah, yeah, you see that a lot. But you never said, well, I'm leaving. So I guess there are best lessons learned. What's the best lesson you've learned from the dog world?
Oh, right.
Best lesson.
Well, as I said earlier, don't get involved with people. I don't have no communications with Stafford people. Very rare. Very rare, unless I'm going to a show and it goes from one show to another. And then that, when I've come away, that's end of it. I don't mix, because I don't drink, obviously. And that's been my philosophy. Get home.
And you agree on that, what, Helen, or do you have a different opinion on this?
I don't know, because we've always kept ourselves to ourselves. And yeah, I think if people want to talk to us, then, we're here for people to talk to. What it is, I don't know, but I think people try and avoid us. And also, I think a lot of people avoid our breeding as well. So, yeah. But we do keep ourselves to ourselves, because when we do go to a show, my dad goes one way and I go the other.
Okay.
So we detach from each other. We always then meet up at the end, and then we go home.
Okay, good.
There's a disease in this world, Bianca, and it's not COVID-19. They call it jealousy.
The little green eye.
They'll never cure that.
Yeah. The monster with the green eyes, they also call it. But if you say we keep it to ourselves and things like that, I fully understand. And we are talking about best lessons learned. Are there regrets? Like, for instance, I should have bought that dog, or I should have made that combination, or instead of making up Quest for Fame, I should have made up Oh Boy, or are there any regrets?
I wouldn't say it was a regret as such, but we had Jupiter's Destiny, and for me, it's a shame because we never found a suitable stud dog. There was nothing really around for her to be mated to. But for me, with Jupiter's Destiny, my goal, as it has been since I was a little girl, was to try and beat my dad with the tickets he won. I didn't beat him, but I levelled with him. So he won 9 tickets and I won 9 tickets as well. So, it's going back to his regret. I would have loved to have found a suitable stud dog. for Jupiter's Destiny.
You see, we only have a litter when we want something for ourselves, you see, Bianca.
Yeah.
And you can soon get dogged up, but we don't.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get too many dogs. I think
No.
most of them. Is it 4 or 5?
4.
4.
4.
Don't get dogged up. What's pointing? Just keep having a litter if you don't want to keep one by.
No. So you never mated Jupiter's Destiny?
No. Because we at that time we got my girl's daughter, and the 2 dogs. You see, Quest for Fame and Old Boy. You see.
So it's quite a busy time for us with the showing stage. Basically, like I said, we've got Champion My Girl, we've got Jupiter's Destiny, and Quest for Fame. And then we had the
Takes 2.
Yeah, we had Takes 2. And then obviously we had another litter with the 2 boys, which was Goldwyn Orchid and Golden Conquest. So yeah, looking back, I would have loved to have found a suitable stud dog for Jupiter's Destiny. That's okay. That of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, when we were showing Quest for Fame, you see, we thought Old Boy was a better dog.
Okay.
Which he was doing okay. And then he sent to be about 15.5 inch, you know. And they were bigger dogs at that time. And he looked odd. So we brought Quest out, his brother, because he could compete with the other dogs, you see.
Yeah.
Because he were a neat little dog, Old Boy. And when we had My Neighbour Had Stare If You Dare, which came down from that Blood Through Rogue,
Mm-hmm.
he used Quest, and he kept a red and white bitch, which it won a reserve ticket, you see. And he says to me, because he had 3 bitches, and he was the worst one he was going to keep, and he was my godson, and I says to him, don't keep that one, keep the other. He said, well, what about you? I said, it don't matter about me. And he said, well, I'll make the bitch up again for one for you. He says, do you want to use Quest again? I says, no, use Old Boy. And it just didn't grasp what I said, Old Boy.
Yeah.
And she had 2 bitches, you see, which we kept one called Goldwyn Kind of Magic. And what happened, we were showing, and then the mad cow disease came out. You remember that, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
So this is going to be a long time, so we had a litter, you see. And this is where my girl came from.
Ah.
So we moved on.
So we
missed out showing her, you see. So we moved on because of that. And it's all worked out like, hasn't it, again?
Yeah, but that's how it got you Champion My Girl.
Yes.
Yeah. Helen, I've got a critique from you here. In 2019, you judged for the Staffordshire Bull Terrier Society, and I'm going to quote you. But I have a question after this quote for both of you. You wrote in your critique, I was impressed with the standard dogs entered under me, but I'm still finding narrow fronts and lacking spring of rib and back ends lacking drive. If I look at this suggests that you have seen these things before during a longer period. Another wise friend of mine once explained to me, she said, bad things or less desired things in the breed come and go like waves. Sometimes you see narrow fronts, they disappear, and then they come again like waves. Do you agree on that opinion?
I don't know if I agree or disagree. Going back to the critique, it's been something that's been creeping into Stafford's from when I wrote that and previous. So yeah, I'm hoping that the fronts do get better.
Yeah.
Back ends, and at the end of the day, I think my dad quoted it was something about what was the quote he said? about knowledgeable people.
It's the fashion dog that causes these problems.
I think people don't do the homework when it comes to breeding, and my dad has just quoted, they jump on the bandwagon and use the top winning dog at the time.
The fashion dog, do you know, you understand where I'm coming from with that?
Yeah.
The fashion dog ruins all breeds.
So instead of the people doing their own work, they need to look back at foundation dogs. As far as it can go back, I'm fortunate that my dad can go back, right back. But a lot of these people can't even go to the Siren Dam, like he said, is ask people how dogs are bred. And they haven't got a clue without picking the pedigree up. If somebody mentions to me a particular dog, I'm not as clever as my dad, but I can follow that line back and go so far back to what I can remember. But people will just use the top winning stud dog at the time. So I think in regards to my critiques, we are losing the fronts on the Staffords. At the end of the day, they're not fox terriers, they're Staffordshire Bull terriers. And I think we're losing that. The spring of rib, they're supposed to be like a barrel. I like to put...
You don't hear that mentioned, barrel rib now. The old timers used to say barrel rib.
So for me, I like to go over a dog, and like I said to you earlier, I go over the dog and it has to fit that standard. And some of these dogs aren't fitting the standard today. But you only can judge what's put in front of you. So you have to fit that standard with the quality that we've got at the minute.
You see, Bianca, with fronts, I'll be straight with you. Took me a long time to get decent fronts, a lot of years, because some of the old dogs, and there was top dogs, no names. There was overloaded, bossy, you name it. It was there. You see. And it was difficult, but it was a little bit more accepted. But I still wanted to correct them fronts of some of the fronts that we had from yesteryear to get them right, and we've got them right now. So it's keeping it right.
Like you said, like waves. So you can breed and keep breeding that, but if you're not knowing what you're doing, you can lose it just like that. Yeah,
your newcomers come and they see these dogs, what you were talking about, and they see them, they think that's how they should be, and it's the wrong picture. It's very, very difficult, same as I've said. As regards the fronts, it's took me a lot of years to get rid of them bossy fronts.
So Helen, when you are judging, you just told us some minutes ago, when you are judging each judging appointment, you still read the breed standard.
Before you judge.
Before you judge, and then you go into the ring. What happens? What must a dog have that gives you the wow factor, that you think, oh my God, I want to put my hands on that one?
I think sometimes, I don't know, I'm speaking with experience. I think you can, as a judge, you can stand in the ring and you can see a particular dog what basically walks in and catches your eye. And there's been a couple of times when I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's definitely my winner. But then I've put my hands on and gone over. I've then changed my mind. But like I said, you're judging with ease.
Hope it's not undershot.
And then again, the mouth is a contributing factor. So I do, like I said, it's every show since I started judging since '97. I always carry the breed standard in my case. So if you ever see me judging, ask to look in my case and you'll see the breed standard in there. So yes, I have that picture, and basically it's like a jigsaw piece. As long as that dog fits that jigsaw piece, I think I'm on to a winner. It
just freshens it up, doesn't it? We all know the breed standard, but just to read it there before you go in the ring.
That
was some advice I was given years ago. Not in Staffords, in another breed, one of the old timers in the 60s. That's what they said to me. Never get done. You just read the breed standard before you go in ring. Go in the toilet and read it and then start your job.
Yeah, so nobody sees that you're reading the breed standard as if you were not.
And we wasted our money here.
Yeah, and that's the general thing.
Standing up.
No, but it's true, isn't
But
it?
going to my judging appointments overseas, I took the standard with me. It's in my bag. It doesn't leave my bag.
Yeah, yeah.
Revision, they call it.
Yeah. It's an ongoing process.
Aye.
Yeah, definitely.
I think Helen's found it's like abroad with the judging. You don't know anybody, so there's no faces going up, which is quite good, isn't it? If you go abroad, you don't know anybody.
No. And Helen, you have been abroad quite a few times. We've seen your list. And it's always hard because I also get that question, which was your best appointment ever? And it's a very hard one because it's so difficult to compare, but I'm going to do the question anyway. Which was your best appointment and why?
Best appointment, okay. My best appointment, there's many, because everyone's always a best appointment. But my best appointment was last year when I went over to the ACT, and then the following week I flew over to New Zealand and judged there. And when I judged the dogs, I got my dog CC winner and my reserve CC winner it was the son was the CC winner and the reserve CC was the father. When it came to the bitches, I looked up and looked round, so I got all my unbeaten bitches in the ring, and there was people from other breeds came and flocked around the ringside. Didn't know what was going off, and I pulled my bitch CC winner out, and the crowd just went up.
Yeah.
And picked my reserve CC, and again the crowd erupted. When I went over to my steward, and he said to me, "Do you know what you've just done?" I said, "No." He says, "Your CC winner, your bitch CC winner, is litter sister to the dog CC winner, and reserve CC was the father to the two." So for me, that was, when it comes to judging and judging to a particular type, I couldn't get any closer than that, and I don't think anybody else could say they've done something similar to that. So it was like, it was just unbelievable. Everybody come from all over, and I'm like, what is going on? I thought somebody's going to lynch me for making a bad decision, and it wasn't. And my steward said to me, when you come to doing your reserve CC winner, one of those dogs in there is the mother. And I looked, and I thought, no, it wasn't the mother. So anyway, I picked my reserve CC winner out. I said, this reserve CC isn't the mother, is it? And he said, no, it isn't. I said, well, the mother didn't come, so. But yeah, so for me, it was last year doing that. It was quite an achievement, I think, when it comes to.
ACT is Australia, if I'm correct, huh?
Australian, yeah, with ACT, and then that was in Canberra. Yeah. And then the following week, the New Zealand Stashbull Terrier Club invited me over there, and I drew a record entry. I think roughly about 45 Stashbull Terriers. It doesn't sound much when you compare it to the UK, but it was a record entry there for the Stashbull Terriers, because they're not very well represented. And to be fair, to say they aren't very well represented over there, there is some good stuff there. So I was over the moon, basically, because the quality is not much difference to what we have over here.
Good.
She had a when she did check, one time she did check, she had to have a translator, and one of the stewards said to the other lady that
it was Sweden,
said they'd never seen all the dogs Helen picked that were typey. They'd never seen it before.
No. That's
so for me,
that's a compliment, isn't it?
When people
really?
come out with comments like that, I did South Africa, and the hosts came over to me and said, we was wondering what you was doing with particular classes and why you did what you did. And it wasn't until you've got all your unbeaten dogs or unbeaten bitches up that we actually knew you have a particular type and you do not veer off that particular type. So, but like I said, you only can do that with the quality of dogs that you have in front of you. But unfortunately for me, I do stick to a particular type and I don't go off that particular type.
Bianca, can I be excused for a few minutes?
Yes, yeah,
I've got to go get my dogs in. That's in kennels. I've got to get them in.
You're not long.
I'll not be long.
Yeah. No, okay.
So going back, that was for me was the icing on the cake. I think from when I did that show in New Zealand.
Yeah, and actually, Helen, the relationship with your father, when I see you together on the couch, is very close. How is it to be in a dog family like this and being able to share the same passion as you do with your father?
Gosh, we could talk about him now. He's not here.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're taking the opportunity.
I don't know. It's just an honour, as like you can see with the picture that we said. You know, it's just an honour to have my dad here. You know, and have all that knowledge, because there's not many people that are now active in the breed that have the knowledge that my dad has. And like I said, he's got big shoes. He's got big shoes that I'm really struggling to fill. But I just hope that he is proud, and I think he is. He doesn't say it because he's a man like that who doesn't give you a pat on the back and say, "Well done, I'm pleased what you've done." And my mum gives me the praise. My dad doesn't, but I can see when you see a picture like that with me and my father and us sat together, you can see the bond that we have. But we have many arguments as well about dogs, so it has its good points and its bad points. So
yeah. And when you are having an argument, what's that about?
Oh gosh, it can be something about a particular dog that I will like, and he will like, well, you don't know where this particular dog's from, and I'll say, well, you don't tell me, because my dad's never been the one to sit me down and talk dogs to me. So what I've learned is I've done it on my own back. Mm-hmm. So my dad never preached dogs to me. I was taken to shows at such a young age. As you touched on earlier, I've got an older brother and sister. My sister, there's 12 years between me and my sister and 11 between me and my brother. And then I came along later on. But yeah, I was taken off and whisked to these dog shows. I didn't know what it were about. And especially when it was at particular leisure centres, I'd be one of the naughty kids hanging from the ropes and stuff, and collecting all the raffle tickets and the number cards off of people's benches. And I'd come home with all this pack of number cards and raffle tickets that nobody wanted. And I thought I'd run the raffle myself. So for me, like I said, I wasn't made to do what I'm doing. It was a choice that I chose, and I think it was a great choice. And it was only because my dad took ill. We've got a dog who we were training up for show. We used to go to ring crafts and training classes with him. And like I said to you, I always went with my dad. It was always me and my dad and the dogs, always that. And I'd gone to the ring craft training. I was about 9, 10-ish, and I sat at the ringside and I was watching my dad in awe. He just went down the mat like a model with the dog. And this particular dog, it was a young dog, and it was a bit of a handful. And my dad has heart problems, and he had an angina attack in the ring, showing this particular dog. And he had to use a spray to get him back to normal. So I took this dog off my dad, and ever since then, it was me who did all the showing from then. So yeah.
Yeah. You have had big moments in showing dogs, making up champions, very nice judging appointments. What's your dream? What's your dream in Stafford?
My dream would be to win Crufts, you know.
Best in show
at Crufts.
Okay, why not take it?
Yes, it would be, I think, to win at Crufts and follow, like I said, in my father's footsteps.
Yeah, good. Actually, we have been talking 2 hours. The dogs are inside, Peter. Well done on you. I think it's a nice time to slowly close this interview. I had a couple of questions, which one you already answered one. My question would have been winning Crufts or judging Crufts. If I would put it that way, what would you choose?
For me,
yeah, both.
Both of us.
I think it'd have to be both, but I would love to win Crufts. And judging Crufts, I would love to judge Crufts while my mum and dad are still alive.
Okay.
That's difficult.
That would be the icing on the cake, I think, for my mum and dad to come to Crufts and watch me judge Crufts.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen now.
I'd like to see an ordinary man in the street win best in show at Crufts.
Yeah.
An ordinary man in the street, and it don't happen. Don't happen, Bianca. Does it?
No.
You know what I mean by that.
But Helen's dream is clear. If there's anybody who has any influence on Crufts appointments, please invite Helen on short notice. Anyway, a last question before we. Last question I've got. If you have to choose between expression in a dog or confirmation, which one do you put first?
Confirmation.
Confirmation, me.
Same.
Okay, both confirmation. Okay, good. We have talked about many subjects. Is there anything you want to share that we didn't discuss or didn't mention?
Oh, well, we could be here all night, I think. But with certain topics, I think, in regards to standard, movement, our breeding, our lines. I think you've done your own work and managed to trace us back. There's not many people in the breed today that can actually trace our breeding back. So yeah, I think as well, like you touched on about the affix. The affix has been the big sticking point, I think, with us, because we've not always used the Goldwyn affix, but now we've got it.
Take care of it. Okay.
We've got it now. So, yeah.
There's lots of things I could discuss, because like I said, Bianca, there's dogs there on certain champion dogs. They don't know we bred them.
No.
You know what I mean? Because like when you're coming into Road Saga and that, there's a dog there. It was called Snow Soldier. It was the full little brother to Star Prize.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody knows it's what we bred.
So the white comes back to
the white comes out from him.
Breeders' Green.
Yeah.
So that's where the white comes into Rogue Saga, Flashy Lad, onwards. That's where the breeding comes from, and a lot of people don't know that those particular dogs come back to my father's breeding.
You see that Travol L said my brother had was a tiger brindle and white.
Mm-hmm.
Jolly and Battle Flame was a red and white, and of course the white took over, you see.
Yeah.
Which, like Jolly and Battle Flame, came down from international champion St. Croix Abu.
Yeah.
Which goes back to old tough stuff again.
Yeah.
We were lucky to get that, actually. And that was what gave us the boost, you see.
Mm-hmm.
That breeding joy, oh by good my. Some good work done there with Harkness and George Downs. he were Wakeham. He were a Stafford man. Then he went judging Oldbridge, you see, going down. Yeah. Very interesting people they were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually, I think that the reason why I wanted to invite you was that Helen and I quite some time had a conversation about what you have done for the breed, and Helen said we are not those people that want to get. You don't talk about what you have achieved and what your breeding has done for the Staffordshire Bull Terrier. So I think hopefully this will get people interested into pedigrees, look into the history of the breed, and find things out for themselves. If that's the message that we can get across, that would be just terrific, I think.
I mean, when I came into it, there were about 12 established red breeders. You know what I mean? With all that bloodstock, there's only me left.
Yeah.
And it's sad, really, isn't it? 'Cause all that work can go like that, can't it? Just simply go like that.
Yeah. 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 There's a lot of blue at the moment, eh? Red is
the fashion dog again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay then.
Okay. May I thank you very, very much for your time. I want to thank the viewers that were participating in this conversation. Thank you so much. I want to wish you a very, very nice weekend. And Helen and Peter, thank you so much for being our guests. You were wonderful. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bloody